አደባባይ ሚዲያ ለወገንተኝነት ጀርባውን የሰጠ ጊዜያዊ ጥቅምን አምቢኝ ብለው የዘመመን ሊያቀና እውነትና እውቀትን አስከትሎ ኢኮኖሚያዊና መንፈሳዊ መረጃዎችን እንካችሁ ይላል። ትኩስ ዜናዎች፣ ዘጋቢ ፊልሞች፣ ጥልቅ ትንታኔዎች በአደባባይ ሚዲያ ይቀርባሉ። ራእያችን ጊዜውን ያማከለና ዘመኑን የዋጀ በእውነት የነጠሩ መረጃዎችን በእውቀት ደግፎ ለሀገራችን ብሎም ለዓለም ሕዝብ ማዳረስ ነው። አድሬሳችን አደባባይ info@gmail.com፣ በዌብሳይታችን www.adebabai.com። ያግኙን፣ ይርዱን። የሁላችንም ስለሆነች ኢትዮጵያ በአደባባይ እንዘግባለን። አደባባይ ሚዲያ።
አደባባይ ሚዲያ የኔ ነው። አደባባይ ሚዲያ የኔም ነው። አደባባይ ሚዲያ የኔ ነው። አደባባይ ሚዲያ የሁላችንም ነው። የኛ ቤተሰብ አደባባይ ሚዲያን ይመለከታል። የእናንተስ? Do Ethiopians watch አደባባይ ሚዲያ? Watch, follow, subscribe and help አደባባይ። አደባባይ ሚዲያ ለወገንተኝነት ጀርባውን የሰጠ።
Welcome everyone and thank you for joining us. This is Adebabay Media's Spirit Digest program. My name is Addis and I'll be your host for today. Today we have invited the members of Apac, the American Ethiopian PAC, which is helping us organize politically and address some of the issues, especially in foreign relations between US and Ethiopia, with Ethiopian Americans at the center of this. I'd like to invite everyone to please go ahead and share and like this conversation. And if you haven't yet, please go ahead and subscribe to Adebabay Media as well. We will be talking about AGOA and the need for that. And also mostly we'll be talking about the governor race in Virginia and the Ethiopian Americans and the Eritrean Americans involvement and what we can do as a voting bloc, especially in the election coming up here on November 2nd. Thank you for being here and we'll be right back.
አደባባይ ሚዲያ ለወገንተኝነት ጀርባውን የሰጠ ጊዜያዊ ጥቅምን አምቢኝ ብለው የዘመመን ሊያቀና እውነትና እውቀትን አስከትሎ ኢኮኖሚያዊና መንፈሳዊ መረጃዎችን እንካችሁ ይላል።
አደባባይ ሚዲያ የኔ ነው። አደባባይ ሚዲያ የኔም ነው። አደባባይ ሚዲያ የኔ ነው። አደባባይ ሚዲያ የሁላችንም ነው። የኛ ቤተሰብ አደባባይ ሚዲያን ይመለከታል። የእናንተስ? Do Ethiopians watch አደባባይ ሚዲያ? Watch, follow, subscribe and help አደባባይ።
አደባባይ ሚዲያ ለወገንተኝነት ጀርባውን የሰጠ ጊዜያዊ ጥቅምን አምቢኝ ብለው የዘመመን ሊያቀና እውነትና እውቀትን አስከትሎ ኢኮኖሚያዊና መንፈሳዊ መረጃዎችን እንካችሁ ይላል። ትኩስ ዜናዎች፣ ዘጋቢ ፊልሞች፣ ጥልቅ ትንታኔዎች በአደባባይ ሚዲያ ይቀርባሉ። ራእያችን ጊዜውን ያማከለና ዘመኑን የዋጀ በእውነት የነጠሩ መረጃዎችን በእውቀት ደግፎ ለሀገራችን ብሎም ለዓለም ሕዝብ ማዳረስ ነው። አድሬሳችን አደባባይ info@gmail.com፣ በዌብሳይታችን www.adebabai.com። ያግኙን፣ ይርዱን። የሁላችንም ስለሆነች ኢትዮጵያ በአደባባይ እንዘግባለን። አደባባይ ሚዲያ።
Welcome back everyone and thank you for joining us. If you're just joining us right now, we are going to be talking with members of Apac about what the organization is doing, AGOA, and especially the election in Virginia that is coming up on November 2nd for the governor race, and what we as Ethiopian Americans and Eritrean Americans could do as far as affecting the changes or the election within Virginia. So thank you for being here with us. I have invited 3 guests. I'd like to invite on to studio. Elias, Yabsara, and Mesfin. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to come and talk to us. I know it's late. I think all of you are in East Coast. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
I'll start with Mesfin. Could you tell us a bit about yourself and your involvement with Apac and what Apac is?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Hiot. I have been in the pharmaceutical benefit management business most of my career. I have spent the last 25 years building pharmaceutical benefits management companies, and currently I am also serving as a CEO of a startup organization that has focused on improving pharmaceutical care cost management in the United States. So most of my career in the United States has been focused on working through improving the different issues that this country faces when it comes to the drug supply chain. That's my day job. I am also currently serving as chairman of the American Ethiopians Public Affairs Committee. It was formed about 6 months ago, primarily in response to what's international coordinated attack, both media and the Western government on Ethiopia, to figure out a way to pull Ethiopian Americans, friends of Ethiopia, and put together an organized team to lobby and argue on behalf of Ethiopia as a nation. So we felt that was necessary, and that organization was formed for that for that purpose.
Thank you. Sarah, could you also introduce yourself a bit and tell us why you chose to be a member of APAC?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am by profession, I'm an international development professional focusing on Africa and driving investments on mobilizing capital markets to the continent. But I've always been passionate about social, economical, and political aspects of Ethiopia and mobilizing and organizing as Ethiopian Americans here in the United States to get our voices heard, to make sure that we are represented in office and politics. So that drew me to APAC, and that is exactly what the Jewish Americans are doing. That's how they're able to influence and educate policymakers on their issues that are close to them. So I joined APAC and I'm supporting for the past few months as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned the Jewish Americans, because I think for as long as I've been aware of the American politics, I've always been fascinated and really jealous of how well they can organize with such a small number and influence the American policy for sure. Elias, I'll send the same question over to you. Introduce yourself a bit for us and then tell us why you joined the APAC.
Sure. My name is Elias Terry. My profession, I'm an engineer and a project manager. So I work in the utility industry, and my profession is a little, a bit out of away from politics. But again, my involvement is initially I was involved in Glenn, and then I at some point I managed to reach out to Mesfin because on one of the meetings, Mesfin laid out the APAC vision, which pretty much impressed me a lot. Similar to what you stated earlier. AIPAC, the Jewish coalition, the political action committee, they're far well organized. They do things, like in a very systematical, strategical, and as well as was a vision, and that was lacking in our community. And I think AEPAC is bringing that vision. So I volunteered to get involved in AEPAC and to help organize, the Virginian team. I'm one of the many organizers here in Virginia. It has been. This has been one of the best efforts that I've seen so far since I moved to America, like 20-some years ago. So that's pretty much me.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that with us. It is my understanding this organization is our very first political PAC within as Ethiopian Americans, right? So with that being that, and also just starting up in March, I've noticed you guys have been able to mobilize and organize a lot of events and really have a lot of conversations with our political leaders. With that, how have you seen you've been received both within the Ethiopian American community and other Ethiopian American organizations, and also within the American, with the larger American society? Sarah, if you can start with that for me.
Thank you. So our efforts has been very well received so far in terms of the Ethiopian American community and also the Eritrean Americans. It is a very well organized, like Elias said, we try our best to keep it organized, professional, and engage the policymakers in the system that has existed. And the other groups have been engaging them. And we've had several conversations. As we said, this is like one of the first efforts of an organized engagement with policymakers. Therefore, we're making relationships and we're continuing to maintain them, and we're continuing to push our the Ethiopian interest and in making sure that we educate them the right information. But as APAC, we've had several efforts so far, and I'm sure Mesfin can add significantly to this, but I would like him to definitely add here.
Yeah, Mesfin, you can go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Yabsara has mentioned the good portion of it. So APAC is an organization that was formed to advance U.S. interest in the Horn of Africa with a pro-Ethiopia agenda. So we do that by, one, working with legislators in making them understand the Ethiopian cause. And two is by making sure that legislators, Ethiopia-friendly legislators, or what we call pro-Ethiopia legislators, are elected to local offices and national offices. We also do that by promoting the good management, good management in basic principles of good governance in Ethiopia, where we support the Ethiopian people to accomplish what they deserve what they deserve to have. So with that, our activities started by going and meeting with various legislators to explain first of all, we exist. We about 1 million of us live in the United States. Second, we want them to understand that the Ethiopia is an oldest ally that America had, and that the current treatment that we see is very unfair and one-sided and not right. So we wanted to explain and make sure that they understand. To our surprise, we have met with about over 70 legislators across the United States, senators, congressmen, and we have found most of them were not aware of most of the good things that they needed to know. They simply believed what they heard on CNN and some of the Western media, which has started to attack Ethiopia in a very coordinated manner. The New York Times was one of the legislators who told us that is her reference document, and what she reads on New York Times is what she thought was the truth, and we had to explain to her that wasn't the case. So the experience, it was a very humbling experience, and to understand that such significant decisions are made with an understanding that we thought was not sufficient. And so just to get back to your questions, the discussion was well accepted by most of the legislators, mainly by the Republican Party representatives. Eventually, we have managed to get some Democratic Party representative to also understand and get our point. And we have been able to reach to the administration only once after we brought the 11 patriarchs, Ethiopian Orthodox Church patriarchs who came to the capital to lobby. That's the only time we were able to get the State Department's attention. And then we have spent a good 2 hours with them. So the effort has been eye-opening, more obvious, of course, for us, but equally for the United States legislators, and who did not who didn't know, who were not aware or who didn't know much about Ethiopia. And so we have found, we are more than ever convinced that the only way that the future of that country, the integrity of that country can be maintained is exactly by imitating the American-Israeli Political Action Committee activities, where we follow up, work very closely both on the campaigns, through participating through the electoral process, as well as participating in finance and fundraising events across the country. So the experience was very interesting, to say the least. Mm-hmm. We believe we have made an impact in the last 4 months, 5 months. Have we gotten to where we wanted to get? Not really. But if it weren't for the efforts that the Ethiopian Americans across the United States did, what Apac did was Apac created a national organization that actually brought together over 13 or 14 different organizations across the country, and then make them work seamlessly. And I believe we have succeeded in doing that. And I believe that impact of the Ethiopian Americans across the country, the efforts that they are doing in every state, in every region, has been amazing. And so, as you heard, the group in California has been very, very active in impacting the process. There is an incredible group in Arizona that's doing an amazing work in influencing the local legislators regarding Ethiopia. There are groups in Virginia, of course. Our very dynamic team in Virginia is doing all that's possible to impact positive change in towards and then we have also activities going on all over the country. Just these are some of the significantly highly accomplished groups that were able to make a difference. So so the response is from how. So we didn't know there are sophisticated Ethiopians like this, to who are you? And then finally, wow, now we get it. I mean, this makes sense to us. So it was fulfilling.
Yes, absolutely. I think even for me as Ethiopian-born person, to be able to see at this organization, and even having all the archbishops, I think 11 of them that went to the Capitol Hill, and being able to meet and represent me is such a beautiful thing to see. Really, it's a new experience for us as well. And even being able to do that in such a short amount of time of being established, like you said, of course, it's the correlation of other organizations as well. So you guys were able to build on some of the work that other organizations have been able to do. But even having to put that together and really achieve this much that you've been able to is very, very big for us. So thank you for all your work. I want to say that. And if I could take it to Elias, I know Messenger just mentioned a bit about having to fight the misinformation, especially meeting with members of Congress to be able to talk to them and give them really information about what's going on in Ethiopia, and make sure that they have as much information as possible, and also be able to hear our side, the truth. What have you noticed as far as the misinformation or propaganda that's been persistent across the board? Are there specific points that you've been able to see, and how can we combat that as well? If you can include that in your answer.
Okay, well, that's a tough question, but nevertheless, the reason I woke up from my sleep is basically not being active and not really advocating for Ethiopia, just living my life. The whole reason is the misinformation that I saw in November, December timeline that literally woke me up, and I think it pretty much panicked all of us that realized that there was some coordinated attack on our birth country, the land that we came from, and the many people, beautiful people that we know and love are at risk. The survival of the country is at risk. That is what woke me up mainly. All of the fact that I know we're bent in so many different ways that you cannot recognize exactly, what society, Ethiopian society is, because what painted on New York Times, BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, name it all. They just, this misinformation and disinformation was at the heights of it. So that is literally what woke me up. And what I noticed is that, when there is some misinformation coming from some direction, be it the international community or some angle, the news flies by very quickly. It is bent towards one direction, and it seems to support a particular, ideology, maybe group, and really is not looking out for what is right, what is democratical, and the ideal that we all believe and that we thought we lived in is not really true, because when we see the misinformation, the same, or the blackout of information also, when there is a whole lot of the Afar massacre, the Wolo massacre, the Gondar massacre, the Tigray massacre by TPLF, and all of the other massacres throughout the nation were just blacked out. So this was a very tough thing to see. And, no matter how much information we put out there, our team, we call it the DMV team, District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia. Mainly I'm from Virginia, so we say Virginia, but DMV covers it all. But we have a dedicated team who does the technical work, who, for example, the CNN fact check, we put out a YouTube, YouTube video challenging the CNN report on how bodies traveled from Ethiopia to Sudan, X and Y and Z, all the assumptions. It was not factual based reporting. We pointed out all the flaws through it, in it. So to answer your question, I think being under the umbrella of APAC, and by getting the support from APAC, and by taking up on some of the efforts, I think we have combated. I would say, but we have not won yet. But there are certain indications such as the IRC, the Interreligious Council, that basically accounts for the Protestant, the Muslim, the Catholic, as well as the Muslim faith leaders got together, and they wrote up a letter. That was also once the letter came through, we run it through several different media, through APAC and Mercury, our lobbyist firm, to make sure that there is coverage for it, right? So there are these things that are helping Ethiopian case forward, but the battle just begun information-wise, and I think there is a need for everyone to get involved in it. Just take out half an hour, 20 minutes, 15 minutes out of your daily routine and get involved. Read, tweet, go on Facebook, Instagram, coordinate, organize within the area that you are in, and reach out to APAC. APAC will provide you the support. and you can go out there and fight. But this is not the misinformation fight cannot be really limited to a few people, but it has to include all of us from Ethiopia. All of the different diverse groups from Ethiopia have to get involved, and we have to fight it, and we have to make sure that folks see the reality and understand that TPLF is a terrorist group. Period. There is no other way but that, right? So the misinformation, disinformation, and the blackouts could only be won by having everyone collaborate and work towards the same goal, and by organizing, not by yourself, by organizing. Organize within have a grassroots movement within where you live and battle, the misinformation, so that we can save our birth's land. That would be my take.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think, especially with this war which TPLF has started, what a lot of Ethiopian Americans are, including me, that don't necessarily fully knew what TPLF is about and what they stood for. We were just shocked by the amount of just blatant lie that was being put out, and how much of that was being observed into the Western media. And I've never seen Western medias covering Ethiopia to this capacity, which is like a bit terrifying to see, and really make me want to ask, like, why are they doing this? Really, like, is this region change or whatever other reason may be? But to be able to want to cover Ethiopia to this extent, and also persistently cover falsehood, and also not even cover the whole truth, right? If there was a media thing that we saw one time where when they were reporting what TPLF has done, they would call them the Ethiopian rebels. But when they feel like TPLF is the victim, they would say, the Ethiopian government did this to the Tigrayan people. So even selectively choosing and addressing the different narratives that they want to address has been quite terrifying to see. So yeah, Sarah, I'll come to you. With the work that you guys have been doing, and also being able to reach as many people as possible, could you speak a little bit to your work, if any at all, in reaching out the youth or the Ethiopian Americans that may have been born here, or necessarily being their primary language being English? Is there any work that is being done, or is there any work that has been done?
Yes, definitely. And that has been one of the shortcomings of Ethiopian Americans advocacy so far. A lot of our advocacy is within the community. It's in Amharic, and a lot of our youth and kids that were born here who do not speak Amharic necessarily do not get exposed to the information. Therefore, we've been making information available, pointing them to the facts, pointing them to the right direction to get information on our social media, on our websites, and mobilizing and organizing in different states. We've been doing that effort as Apac. And I urge the youngsters to really be keen and engage in their country issues. I mean, Ethiopia, we all go back one way or another. Our parents are from there, and it's really a personal issue. And when we say Ethiopia, we're not talking about the government, we're talking about the people, the well-being and livelihood of the people in Ethiopia, our aunts, our grandmothers, our neighbors, and people that we know who call home their primary home Ethiopia, who do not have anywhere else to go if the country ends up in a very spiraling conflict. So it is up to us to voice that, to be a voice for those who are back home, who are suffering in different regions of Ethiopia. And as young Americans here who are very much in tune with the system, who speaks their way of the language, it's up to us to communicate that and to be voice, and project that really to the African diaspora, to African Americans. It's not, you don't win a battle by just being a standalone. You need to you're mightier when you're together. So we want to organize with the like-minded Ethiopia friends community across the United States to make our voices heard, to expose the misinformation, to really stand for Ethiopia and its people. And it's really up to us, I would say. And in our efforts so far, a lot of young folks have reached out to us. because there hasn't been a really organized a system so far that young people were attracted to, that at least I was aware of. And I've been engaged by a lot of young folks to say, how can we volunteer? How can we be part of APAC? This is my profession. I'm a graphic designer. I'm a journalist. How can I help? So it's been a very humbling experience, like Musfin said earlier. And we're seeing a lot of young folks come through to support, and I applaud that. And being part of also the political system, here is not just voting. You can also run for office, for your local office, for city council, school district. That is how we get our interest within the conference rooms, around the table, in these policy making and decision making discussions. So I really urge Ethiopian Americans, Eritrean Americans who are born here to be part of the political process, to be the process and to be the voice within those tables, within the closed doors, so we have someone in there representing our interests.
Absolutely, I love that. I want to jump into a couple of the work that you guys have been doing under APAC, one of it being AGOA. Messin, could you give us a bit of background of what AGOA is, and also what the work that you guys have been doing so far around that topic?
Sure. So AGOA is an abbreviation for African Growth and Opportunity Act, signed into law by President Clinton in 2000. And the purpose of this legislation was to allow sub-Saharan African countries export locally manufactured products tax-free to the United States, whereby the United States manufacturers, companies that would like to manufacture in sub-Saharan African countries at a low cost, then would set up their manufacturing plants and manufacture and then export products tax-free to the United States. So that's what AGOA is. It was in place, and several manufacturers went to Ethiopia and sub-Saharan Africa and started to manufacture several clothes and some kind of electronics and some consumer products. And Ethiopia, since the beginning of the program, has been enjoying the export opportunity to the United States. And now this year, 2021, the projected export to the United States is expected to be $500,000, $500 million. And this is projected to be into a good $5 billion export in the coming 5 years. Now, this is not a favor, and the United States wasn't doing a favor for Africa when they did this. This was a very well calculated strategy to access the African market, which only can grow, and give opportunity to American companies to establish their manufacturing plants for a long-term sustainable growth in the African market. That's how President Clinton convinced the Republican Congress at that time to get it signed. So it's a win-win for both parties. It's, when you have a lot of money, actually you usually have advantage over people who don't have that much. So when you get threatened by AGOA, both parties lose, but the ones who have less lose the most.
Mm-hmm.
So that is AGOA now. So the issue now in question is there are 8 criteria a country should meet in order to qualify to be part of the AGOA eligible countries. And Ethiopia meets all of them, actually exceeds all of them. And so today, what the U.S. Department of State, USRT, the organization that governs AGOA, are alleging that there is a human rights violation in Ethiopia. And one of the articles in that regulation says that if there is a human rights violation, then a country should not be eligible and should be delisted from AGOA. So they are using that particular paragraph or particular section to justify delisting Ethiopia from AGOA. Now, when we first found out that this was happening, so we were surprised because we thought it was way too much of a stretch to go that route, and we weren't sure if they were serious. Then with our after we found out that they were seriously using this as one of the tools that they would like to force the Ethiopian government to do what the U.S. State Department wants to do. Then we put together a full-fledged explanation, and item by item, all of the 8 points that would qualify Ethiopia to be AGOA to be justified and in all field. And in addition, we reached out to all of the 19 USRT, these are the different agencies in the United States government that would vote for listing or delisting agencies, each one of them, telling them that this is the situation. There's no point, there's no really justified explanation for delisting Ethiopia at this point. And not on top of that, we also explained that would result in severely adversely affecting the U.S. interest in that part of the world. So let's not do it, especially Apac as an organization trying to advance the U.S. interest with a pro-Ethiopia agenda in that part of the world, especially felt that this makes no sense. So that's what AGOA is. That's the rationale. And so when our explanation, which you haven't received any pushback or any rebuff, is the human rights situation that's mentioned as an excuse to delist Ethiopia is not a correct or really exactly not really a reason at this point as per the law. One, the issue that's in question is because of the war, or the ongoing war. Everyone knows war is messy and things happen in a war front, and we all believe that anybody who committed atrocities, irrespective of who he is or which party they are, where they belong, should be prosecuted to the fullest of the law.
Yeah.
And at this point, we have seen the government, the Ethiopian government, identifying and prosecuting offenders. There is significant amount of work that's being done to investigate and identify offenders from all sides. There is an Ethiopian Human Rights Commission. There is AU, the AU assigned person, Obasanjo, the former president of Nigeria, doing an investigation. There is a UHRC team doing an investigation. The most recent report that we saw from the United Nations itself, which we know now, what their tendency is, clearly states that the Ethiopian government is in full compliance and collaboration for the investigation, and they are doing their best to get it to any kind of atrocity that might have happened. So when all this is in progress, there is no logical way to conclude that nothing is being done, and therefore there has to be corrective action, otherwise we'll delist. So we have obviously reached to a conclusion, like most of the other things that we see, which we are still trying to understand why that is the case, why the U.S. State Department in particular, the Biden administration is has taken a stand that they have taken, and to the extent of really repeating the TPLF talking points. We don't know that. We don't know why. So, but our responsibility as American Ethiopians, our responsibility as citizens of this country who actually care for the U.S. relationship in that part of the world, is to continuously fight, explain, and continuously testify wherever we have to testify to make sure that the truth is out, and then exercise our rights as citizens of the country in campaigns, in fundraisings, in advocating for, in identifying political candidates that advocate or understand or are willing to listen to the point that we are advocating, and then work within the system to make sure the integrity of Ethiopia is protected. And we believe that is directly related to making the United States a safer country and a safer place for all of us.
Absolutely. Thank you for that detailed answer. I think sometimes it's difficult to really imagine what's going on behind the scenes, especially when you're just being asked, sign this petition. And we have been advertising that, of course. And if any of the viewers right now haven't signed the petition, please go ahead and sign as well. You just need to fill in your name and your address, and the rest of it would be auto-filled for you. And you just send an email to your representative and senator to just make sure that we stay in Agawa. With that in mind, Elias, could you tell us a bit about how the petition has been going and any updates that you have for Agawa?
Okay, sure. I'm going to bring up my spreadsheet there. And I don't know if we have that data and if we can share it. So it is estimated that we have about a million people or so within US, Ethiopian people. So far, we have been doing good. There has been a good progress in having folks to sign the petition and to send it. So far, we have gotten about 10,622 people to sign it within about a good 5 weeks or so, 5 or 6 weeks. But still, that sort of leaves a significant amount of people out there. We're not reaching. Folks are not. We're not getting 10% of the folks out there. 1% of the Ethiopian diaspora is who signed that letter. Agwa, as Musfin stated, it is a very crucial act for our country and for our people. There are about 200,000 people who are directly hired through Agwa Act, and about indirectly there are about 1 million people who are hired and benefit out of Agwa. So losing Agwa would mean, just imagine, even not in Ethiopia, even here, all of us support at least 1 or 2 people back in Ethiopia. And the Ethiopian community is known to support, if not 1, 2, 3, 4 people, their own family, plus, your immediate family, kids, and then your mom and dad and anyone else who needs support. So we are impacting at least a good 3 to 5 million people through losing Agwa. So in light of that, we all need to, when an effort like this comes out, we all need to, 1, educate ourselves if the information is not enough out there, 2, take the initiative to sign it and have at least a good 10 people sign it. You could reach out to 10 people, make sure that they sign it and they pass it along. So to the graphics that you were showing a little earlier, about 10,622 people signed it. This is about 45 minutes ago, and people also signed it recently. But just the overall number, if you look at Maryland, is actually leading right now. Maryland is at 1,632 people, Virginia 1,622, California 1412, and then you go all the way down to into Arizona, less than 100 people, Oregon. Some of the places we might not have as much people, but the places where we know there is a lot of Ethiopians. DC 356, Seattle, Washington 643. These are like numbers much lower. Even if you take the higher sample places such as Maryland and Virginia, we are over a good a good amount of people. We should be able to get 100,000 people quickly. I really appreciate and thank all of the folks who took the time to sign this petition and also share it, but we still are lacking in getting additional signatures to come through. That said, while this effort was geared towards reaching out to the lawmakers, the Congress men and women, as well as the senators, there will be a follow-up petition that's going to come through. We will be launching it shortly. That petition is going to address directly the administration, i.e., the president and everyone who's associated with the act, right? So we want to make sure that we take a proactive approach to it. We'll share the information both on Adebabay Media and other other outlets, as well as social media in different places. But we need folks to really take this seriously, get engaged, fill the petition, reach out to your friends and relatives, whether Ethiopians or not, so long as they are American citizen or if they have a green card, they are able to fill it. So let's be proactive and protect our folks from losing their livelihoods and impacting Ethiopia ultimately. So that's the update I have.
Absolutely. I think to just add on to that as well, this is part of the war efforts for us as Ethiopian Americans. I say that because whenever our money better is measured against a dollar, and whenever there's a lack of dollar, the economy of the country is going to go down, and the poor are going to be affected a lot more. And this is definitely what TPLF is trying to do. So making sure that we also get involved in this, which takes like less than 30 seconds. I did fill it out and it was very, very quick. We get a quick email saying, thank you for sending an email. So it actually does get received by our representatives. And this is another way in which we could participate in making sure that, the misinformation TPLF has been and its agents have been dispersing kind of stays put, really being able to fight that as well. And this is how I see the AGOA signing the AGOA petition as part of is. And like you said, I think there's so many of us in every state, and seeing some of the states only 60 people, 50 people, 30 people signing, it's kind of disheartening for all the hard work that they've been putting into this. So I would like to ask and encourage everyone to go ahead and please share this. And by the end of our program, we'll let you know if the number has changed, because we have an active counter that we are following to see how much of that we've been able to affect. If you're just joining us, we're having a conversation with some of the leaderships of Apac about what's going on in Ethiopia, the work that they've been doing, AGOA, and after a quick video, we're gonna come back and talk about the election in Virginia and what that means for us as Ethiopian Americans. Stay with us.
As you all know, November 2nd is an election day. As Americans of Ethiopian descent, it's our citizenship responsibility to get involved, to vote. Not getting involved, not voting is not an option. Staying home is not an option. It's our responsibility, civic duty to get engaged. So we ask all of you, your friends, people who you know, Americans of Ethiopian descent, friends of Ethiopia, and any of our neighbors, friends, colleagues, please invite them to come to the booth and make your voice known. We would like all of you to come and join us. We have a booth for more information. Please get information, get engaged. We have few things that we are pushing at this point. The African growth and opportunity Ethiopia is a member of is strengthened at this point, and we would like all of you to stop by at the booth and be part, get your voice heard, so that Ethiopia remains eligible for AGWA, which covers about close to 230,000 jobs in Ethiopia, and about 1 million lives impacted if this was not to be the case. So let's get engaged. Let's get involved. Nothing getting involved is not an option. Please vote. Voting is your personal choice. We ask you again and again. Please go to the polls on November 2nd. Thank you, and thanks again.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here having a conversation with some of the members of APAC. If you're just joining us, please go ahead, share and like. And also, if you're new to Adebabay Media or you've been watching us for a while and haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe as well. Yasser, I want to come to you now when we're talking about elections, especially a lot of the it's not really midterm election. It's like an off-season kind of election. It's happening in November 2nd. But the big one that we've been following, especially because Virginia is definitely a swing state, to be able to change, the votes and how that looks like. Could you tell us how organizing around that have been looking like for you guys, and being able to talk to or reach out to the candidates as well, and how that whole process is playing out?
Thank you, and I'm sure Mesfin and Elias will add to this. But just to start off, we have been calling on the Ethiopian Americans, Eritrean Americans to be engaged and involved in the voting process and the political process across the nation. We have a strategy drafted to engage all Ethiopian Americans and Eritrean Americans across the country. We would like our votes to be considered and certainly not dismissed or ignored. Our voices matter. We are a critical mass that we can mobilize our people. And like you said, Virginia is a swing state, and create a vote block. And we vote for issues that are critical for our country, for our people here as the diaspora. And we're going to vote that way as well. And we're going to show that our votes matter and our voices are heard by going to the polls and voting for those who, politicians, policymakers who are going to be representative of our issues and concerns. And we've been doing that nationally. And as well as now the upcoming election, as you know, November 2nd, the gubernatorial election, we've mobilized significantly, even though in a short period of time, Elias have been leading and spearheading this effort in Virginia, mobilizing a group, a task force that is working to really call on the Ethiopian American, the Eritrean American community to go out and vote. Like Mesfin said in the clip that we just saw, not voting is not an option. When we vote, we are heard, where we're seen, and our issues can be, their attention can be paid to our issues. So Elias, if you can, I'll be very happy to hear you as you organize, as you lead us through this process, and making sure the right person is in office and the Ethiopian American voices are heard in Virginia and next week, basically.
Thank you. Elias, do you have anything to add to this as well?
Yeah, so I think Yabsara summarized it pretty well. The Virginian, the governor election, we started a little late, partly because we were still working with both governor candidates to get some sort of a confirmation that they will support, the Ethiopian American policy that aligns, that also helps Ethiopia, right? So either support the AGWA effort or come out and see, the realities and speak out like Christmas, the Senator Christmas out of New Jersey, and clearly point out, what's right is not right, what's right is right, right? But we haven't gotten any clear confirmation, and the best confirmation we got was the one from Glenn during the festival, and so we are asking folks to vote, not stay at home. We have a phone bank that we've been running for a good week and some now, and encouraging people to go out there and vote, not to stay at home. I'll give you a good example. One of the volunteers, for example, she reached out to a voter, and she was discussing with them, and the voter basically said, "I'm disappointed with the Democrats. I voted all my life Democrat, and I'm not going to vote for Republican because I'm not so certain about Glenn, particularly the association with Trump, X and Y and Z." And no matter what she said, the gentleman would not budge. He was absolutely certain that he's not going to do it, but he'll stay out to harm, the Democratic Party or the Democratic candidate. But the point here is, staying home is not an option. Staying at home and not being able to vote and not voting and not making your voice heard will definitely make us, both parties will discount us because we're not engaged, we're not active, and we also have to be very careful on how we vote. We have to vote for the candidate that aligns, and that would definitely, ensures that there is some accuracy in the reporting as well as in the policy towards Ethiopia, and a policy that is, necessarily a governor cannot really impact the foreign policy, but we need advocates. We want to make sure that we elect someone who will advocate for Ethiopia. To that end, as I stated, Glenn gave us a better feedback, and I think Terry also put out a statement today as well. But going back to the volunteer that I was discussing a little while ago, the way she taught me a lesson as well. And I was engaged in calling as well and reaching out to different people. And I literally called her and I said, some people really are not getting the intent of this protest vote, that, they could go do a protest vote and vote for Glenn, even if they don't align with Glenn, and even if they align with Terry. This is a protest vote, but folks are not getting it. And her answer was what I said a little earlier ago. She got back to me and she said, really, you didn't really try, because she gave me the example of the gentleman, and she said, you have to ask him with clear conscience, can he stay home or, not vote for Glenn or vote for Terry or something to that effect. If he, knowing the fact that people in Afar died, women got raped in Wallo, in Gondar, in Tigray, TPLF blamed the government while doing all those things. Eritrean refugees got slaughtered. All these fights which never came. So she asked me, was this clear conscious? Ask him if he is willing to stay home. So the question I have for every Virginian and for every voter in Virginia that is registered and who decides to stay at home, my question for you is, would you be okay staying at home, knowing the fact that, our brothers and sisters got slaughtered? Not human beings, animals got slaughtered. Mothers and fathers lost their kids. Kids lost their parents. Women got raped. To me, this, no matter what, however my conscience does not align with one party or the other party, I'm not staying home. I am definitely going out there and making protest vote. I'm not asking you to vote for Republican or anything as such, but don't stay home. Get out. Do your civic duty. Speak for the folks who are voiceless. The many who were buried in one hole, a whole bunch of them, right? Those are people that we need to speak for. Those are the weak folks that we did not, advocate for. We were silent, and they got slaughtered due to our silence. So my question to you, as a Virginian and as a voter, are you okay with this fact, staying home and being comfortable while we are losing folks right to left back in Ethiopia? So take this, digest it, and I ask you to go out and do your civic duty.
Absolutely. I think also being able to look at this election, right, this vote as a way to protest, right? We've been out on the streets protesting, we've been organizing, we've been writing tweets, and we've been doing all the work that we can possibly do to make sure that, the office of the White House, which is basically run by President Biden, who is a Democrat, watching them giving us TPLF talking points and passing sanctions based on what CNN is saying, what the New York Times is saying, when we are, as Ethiopian Americans, part of taxpayer who, we have CIA, which is one of the most funded intelligence organization that works for Biden. And instead of using that, instead of really getting at the heart of it, being able to run sanctions or threaten Ethiopia sanctions based on what CNN said and what the New York Times said, I think it really is a luxury at this point to talk about whether or not you agree with the Republican platform. But it is, for me, the way I'm seeing it, it is a point to show that the Democratic Party, that we've been voting for you for as long, a lot of Ethiopian Americans, like we said, have been voting for the Democrats. And this is our chance to say, we could take away our votes, and we want our votes to be counted, and we want to be heard, and we want to make sure that information about our birth country is correct, and we want to make sure that the Democratic Party, as we've been seeing right now, have not been seeing right now, learns to respect the sovereignty of our country and make sure that whatever rules and regulations and policies that they're running, especially the foreign policies on Ethiopia and the Horn in general, to make sure that it's based on the truth and truth only. And the only way we could do that right now is by taking away our votes. And that it might be, yeah, go ahead.
If I may add a couple of points here. To the question you asked me earlier, about misinformation and things like that. The recent events that, like Brad Sherman, the congressman out of California, the guy basically spelled out, the talking points of TPLF. Yeah. Where is Eritrea in relation to, access for Tigray? Not really fact checking. Just putting out whatever, the worst point for me is his points were put out by the lobbyist firm and really not by him, not tweeted. But he took the point from TPLF and he just put it right out there. And my question for Californian District 27, I think, is for Ethiopians who live in that area, how do you let this guy slide like this? You gotta get him engaged, sit him down, ask him these questions. Where did he get his information? And why is he not speaking out against the crimes and atrocities committed by TPLF? Where is that? Tim Kaine, we engaged Tim Kaine at some point, and I got a letter from Tim Kaine. I was very disappointed. It was talking points straight out of TPLF. Basically, the letter stated that the Ethiopian government started the war. So this shows me that the Democratic Party is taking our vote somewhat for granted. I don't want us to vote for Democrats or Republicans just one way or the other way only. Just look at the policy, look at what's going on now, and make sure that as a bloc voter, we support the candidates, individuals that will advocate for Ethiopia while maintaining, the interest of the U.S., right? So that's how I see it.
Absolutely. I think when we are voting, we have to be really politically savvy in a way to make sure that our interests are protected, right? I think it might come a bit off for me to say this. I'll give the question to Mesfin, but I'm a Republican. I've been a very outspoken supporter of Trump and his policies, and I think with policy-wise, I align with the conservative party and such. But I think for me, even I would be the first person to vote for a Democrat if they show me that they will listen and they have interest and they want to stand by the truth, right? So I don't necessarily think, I think earlier there was a show that Malakedo was saying, we don't have the luxury right now to talk about domestic policy and what we want the candidate to have when our birth country is at risk of being propagated into non-existence by mostly the Democratic Party. So, Mesfin, could you speak a little bit about building on what Elias was saying about voting for a Democrat or a Republican, not only in terms of Virginia, but in general, and even in the midterm election coming up in 2022?
Sure. I think what I would like to say to your audience today is, when you are 1,300,000,000 population, when you are like the American Israelis, about 2 to 3 million in a 330 million population, you cannot belong to one party. You have to be a swing voter as much as you can. You have to be a voter of conscience. You have to be a voter in principle on issues. So you can get affiliated to any party. That's fine, but it's always good to be a swing voter and try to swing states wherever you are to the place that you really believe. So we have an opportunity in wherever in Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, in even Pennsylvania, to be swing voters and impact elections. Now, at this point, for those of you who are procrastinating and not to want to vote Democratic, the Republican, because you have a Democratic value, I'll tell you our experience. We have visited over 70 legislators. We have written letters after letters, and we have tried to plead Ethiopian case to those who would listen. Now, we have achieved almost many positive responses from the Republican Party, and there are certain Democratic offices that we weren't even allowed to talk to. The legislators who were supposed to respond to their constituents weren't even interested. So there is that part. So why? Because would this happen to Jewish American friends? No, it won't. I'll tell you right now, it won't. When they make a phone call, and people will call them and say how high. So why that? Because one, they are organized. Two, they are swing voters. Three, they have raised enough fund to impact elections by all means. And I'm not going to tell anybody here today that elections in the United States is a factor of how much money you can raise. So voting and financial backing is what makes or breaks an election. And voting in blocks is a critically important ability for minority groups to get our voices heard. And at times like this, when the Democratic Party clearly clearly has demonstrated absolute no concerns to any of, no sympathy to whatever pleadings that the American Ethiopians from coast to coast are making to them. It is very appropriate to do a protest vote. It's very appropriate to do a protest vote. I don't think people should stay home. You go out. I think you should put your protest vote. It's at this point we are talking about those people like Elias mentioned, the different people that we see, the sufferings that we see, and then the absolute carelessness of not even paying attention to it, or having a TPLF talking point in every level of government is something that we have to make sure is not right. And the only way you can explain that people can pay attention to you is you go out and vote. Protest vote is appropriate, and protest vote means voting for the opposite party that you probably didn't agree with, because it may be, and if that's your party, you don't protest, so that's what protest vote means. So I think this is one of those critical times in if those of us who read about the situation in Ethiopia, listen to the situation in Ethiopia, and get really upset, there is something you can do, especially if you are in Virginia, if you are in Atlanta. We will be going to Atlanta after Virginia. You would go to the polls and then you register your protest vote. Tell which will help to clearly demonstrate that you are not happy with what's happening, and then I guarantee you people will talk to us after that. So I really encourage people, obviously, please don't stay home, and then please also protest vote is very, very fun. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also speaking to, I know you mentioned some of the swing states. Another swing state is Colorado, and the Colorado vote is mostly carried within the Arapahoe County, and there's so many Ethiopians. We basically live in Arapahoe County, so there's definitely a chance to turn Colorado back to the Republican state it was as well, just to make sure that, again, the protest vote. And we also have a candidate there that's currently running for city council, Halda Bogale. Another point that she brought up is, we may not be able, yes, let's put the protest vote, but then when we have a chance, let's keep the vote in-house. So make sure that to tell them we're keeping our votes to the people that we like and to the people that speak for us, and be able to say, the candidates may win or may not win, but just to show that we're going to keep these votes to us and know that this is a voting block that you're missing out. I'm going to come back to you, Sarah, and then we have a question that one of our viewers is asking, and the gist is this, right? Why do we care about a state's gubernatorial run when these governors, whoever is going to win, is not going to have any effect on foreign policy, which is what we want to make change on, and which is what you're speaking at length about. So why is this important when they don't have any say in how the foreign policy is going to be enforced?
Yes, so it matters. It matters in demonstrating our voices are instrumental in putting the right person in office or depriving the other person of the votes to be in office. So when we go out and vote to the candidate that is close to our issues, we make sure that when we do exercise our voting rights, we get that person in. And when we get to the primaries, the presidential elections, that we would be that voter block that's going to swing the results one way or another. And we demonstrate that by local elections like the gubernatorial election and also the primaries and so on going forward. And the senators, so we're going to have another very soon. So that person we put in office matters. As you have seen, the Biden administration recently, I believe the day before yesterday, President Biden was campaigning at a rally for Terry. We've seen Obama campaigning. So however you support your party, like, for example, the Democratic Party, the line goes all the way up. And like Ms. Finna said, we've been extremely disappointed by the Democrats in Congress and Senate on how they have received us and how they were not open to our causes and not open to listen to our concerns and completely dismissing our plea. So us demonstrating that here in Virginia in a gubernatorial election is a powerful tool to show and illustrate our powerful voting ability to swing the vote to Republican. And we've seen it today as a very near example. We've seen a statement from Terry, the gubernatorial candidate in Virginia, issuing a statement specifically for the Ethiopian Americans and Virginians here. We did not receive this statement when we asked to engage with him prior to the festival we organized a week back. We got a good statement from the other candidate, but we did not from Terry. And our messages are getting to him. This is a demonstration that we're shaking up things. We're getting attention. And we should continue. We should continue to push. We should continue to go on and really show that we matter. Our voices cannot be dismissed and cannot certainly be taken for granted. So that's what I would say for that the viewer's question. And I'm sure you can add if I've missed anything.
If I can add a couple of things there,
yes, please.
you have put it pretty well. Excellent points. If you look at Glenn's speech at the festival,
can I play it for you real quick?
Yes, please. That would be wonderful.
Okay. Awesome.
Hello, everybody. This is Glenn Youngkin. I'm running for governor, and I want to thank you for letting me join you for your event. And I'm sorry I'm not at the fall festival with you. The Ethiopian community has made immense contributions to Virginia, and I am so happy that we are all Virginians. We're going to work together to build further bridges so that we can, in fact, make Virginia the best place to live, work, and raise a family. We're going to make sure that we bring down our cost of living. We're going to cut taxes. We're going to eliminate the grocery tax and double people's standard deductions and have the largest tax rebate in the history of Virginia. It'll be worth $1,400, almost $1,500 for every family of 4 in Virginia. We're going to make our schools so much better. We're going to invest the largest school budget in the history of Virginia, raising teacher salaries, investing in facilities, investing in special education, but also raising the standards and expectations for our children and introducing charter schools. We're going to make our communities safe again. We're going to invest in law enforcement and also our mental health system. But we also are going to go to work creating jobs and improving the economy. And as part of that, we in fact are going to cut regulations. We're going to invest in training so that we can have the best workforce. We are going to get Virginia moving and create 400,000 jobs together and 10,000 new startup businesses. But we're also going to explore expanding our trading relationships with Ethiopia. I mean, we should in fact be deeply engaged in trade for coffee and spices and knit and woven materials and electrical machinery. There are all kinds of opportunities that we can go explore together. Finally, I ask you to get out and vote. Exercise your constitutional rights. Go to the polls and cast your vote for your next governor. And I ask you to vote for me, please. We together can build an amazing Virginia. So thank you for letting me join you. I hope you have a great fall festival. And let's make Virginia the best state in America to live, work, and raise a family.
You could go ahead and pick up from where you left off.
Yeah, so there were so many good points, right, for Virginia, right, for the local folks who will be living in Virginia and raising family and working as well. But beyond that, if you look at it, what he was suggesting was a bilateral trade relationship with Ethiopia directly. Mm-hmm. He's advocating for Ethiopia, and he's getting engaged in helping further the Ethiopian cause, right? So from that perspective, though he is not he really cannot impact the foreign policy, he can advocate for it to help us, put the right policy towards Ethiopia and not have the misguided policy that we have currently, and that you, myself, and everyone who is involved here is basically working beyond, besides our full-time work, to make sure that Ethiopia is not impacted. We have a candidate that is saying that he is interested in having a bilateral relationship with Ethiopia. Can you imagine how much we can foster this relation if we put Glenn in? Say the next administration falls somewhat to Republican or something to that effect, we will have a lot of impact to the foreign policy. Not only that, Democrats also will pay attention that we managed as a bloc to swing the vote to go in one direction than the other. So it is very important, whether it's local, not the governor, down to your local Congress personnel. We had a local representative come out here and engage my wife, and my wife challenged her right to left. And now we will have an opportunity to talk to our congressman because she got her engaged. She's a local, necessarily she's not going to have a foreign policy leverage, but there is the ability to reach out to several different folks beyond herself to advocate for Ethiopia and for the right policy and cause for the Ethiopian cause. So as such, go out and vote. And whether it's local or whether you're the small vote, get engaged. And it doesn't stop now. Or even if we have peace in Ethiopia, everything is going great, get engaged. If you are able to get elected, go get elected. It doesn't have to be a government position, but there are several other positions that we can fill and be the voice in those rooms. In those closed door discussions about Ethiopia, you'll be the right person to advocate for the many poor people out there in Ethiopia who struggle to feed, to get one meal a day, right? And impacting AGOA, impacting this misguided policy, basically will destroy our economy and will impact our folks further. But if we are the voice for Ethiopia in those closed door discussions, and if we are the voice for Ethiopia by going out there and voting for the candidate that advocates for Ethiopia, we will help shape the foreign policy, the local policy, the bilateral trade relationship, and foster the relationship between Ethiopia and the country, the United States, the country that we live in, the country that we are a citizen of, so that it is a win-win situation for both scenarios. So not discount any election, be it governmental election or your local election. Be engaged, form the relationship so that you have the ability to go talk to them. TPLF did this really well. They are able to reach out to all the senators, governors, Congress personnel, even the administration. They are able to make the point, even when it's not factual, when there's a lot of flaws in it. They still sold it as a true statement, to the point where I got a letter from my senator stating all of TPLF points, and no mention of the Afar, no mention of Bolo, no mention of Gondar, no mention of the 27 years atrocity looting that the TPLF did. So let's be the voice for the voiceless. Get engaged, get voted, be a candidate, and let's vote for you. If not, go out and vote. So that's summary.
Yeah, I love that. I think just to add to that, I saw a question one of our viewers was asking, how would they know we are Ethiopian? And I think the answer for that is building that relationship that APAC is building, and other organizations that are Ethiopian Americans and Eritrean Americans that are building, talking to these politicians saying, hey, we have this many voters. and what are the things that you're going to do for us as an organization, as a group, right? And being able to build that relationship and say, hey, I'll bring this many votes. And that's the only way they would know that you're Ethiopian Americans, right? Voting, yes, the protest vote is absolutely necessary, but also making sure that letting them know, building that relationship and telling them this is what you're doing and this is how many of us that can vote, right? We know a lot of the numbers we have in Virginia. We have California numbers, I believe. We have Colorado numbers, Atlanta numbers, and we've seen how that vote really does affect, especially in Atlanta, being able to get two Democratic senators for the first time in a long time from Georgia. So really building that relationship with our elected officials or with our candidates is how they're going to know that we're Ethiopian Americans. And then
if I may add one additional point, the way they will find out that there is the Ethiopian diaspora voting for them is, for example, here in DMV, we have volunteers who volunteer for Glenn, and as well as for the Democratic Party. So we've not succeeded in the Democratic camp, but we have managed to have to form some sort of a relationship with Glenn's campaign, right? So they have been voicing our voice and pushing our point across. So when you go out there and when we vote, most of us identify as an African American, and probably they would not know that you are an Ethiopian or not. But I'm sure there's a way they can find out. But beyond that, get involved, be a volunteer, do phone banking, go out and talk to people, reach out to different, advocate for the candidate. That way they know that there is a vote that came from Ethiopians. I think Masfin can add on this one, just to on clarifying on whether they would be able to ID who voted on So I don't know, Masfin.
Definitely.
So they have there is a record which was published, which says the Ethiopian American vote in Virginia is about 4.5% of the electorate, the total voting bloc. So there is a way to track it. Usually after elections, they do this post-mortem analysis of to know what happened, where did we win, where did we lose, and they will very quickly find out which areas, which zip code, which county went one way or another, and then so actually I don't know if you guys know the late one of the talk show hosts was bitterly complaining about Virginia going from red to purple to blue because of the American Ethiopians vote. The guy called one of the conservative hosts, Rush Limbaugh. So there is a way to know that. It's the polling system is pretty sophisticated, and so they would very quickly understand, and then once that's known, then the way the Biden administration is behaving today towards Ethiopia, I think we hope will change. The way I think we hope we'll get an opportunity to make our case. We'll get an opportunity to be listened, and then we believe that will be both good both for the U.S. interest in that part of the world, as well as in advancing a pro-Ethiopia agenda for what we do. More and just one more point to add on to this. Once we are finishing a national campaign election strategy work at this point, this is going to focus on what's next. Now, past Virginia, there are 6 swing states, and then there are another 40 states that would like to have our say. And so there is a 50-state campaign strategy that's being rolled out. would be reaching out to all of you, wherever you may be, to be volunteers to join the group. We need the youth, the young professionals, students, university students to get engaged. That's her responsibility, to pull all the young people, to bring them to the group and get us all engaged. So this is the beginning. We would continue, get organized, and all of us, Ethiopian Americans across the United States, will have one major structure that will give us a marching order and pros and cons of the choices that we have in every market, in every state, in every district, and that way we are engaged in a very logical and meaningful way to help our local cause as well as our bigger cause of making sure a pro-Ethiopia agenda is carried by the United States government that we can directly influence, which in turn will influence the Western bloc, so that the Ethiopia is protected from what we have seen could possibly happen to a country, which was a scary situation that we have experienced in the last 1 year.
Absolutely. I think Esther, I'll come to you as well and to tell us a little bit about the events that Mesfin was just mentioning. That would be, I believe, this Sunday, October 31st, especially looking forward in midterm elections 2022. We know the House of Representatives, all of them are up for election, which is about 432 members that are up for election. Also, few senators that we are going to be paying attention as well, especially in the swing state, like Mesfin was mentioning, and some governors that we're going to be looking at as well. So could you tell us a bit about that effort that you guys are putting together? I'll go ahead and share the link for people to sign up, and also like to tell people that we'll also be showing that conversation here on Adebabay Media on Sunday as well.
Yes, of course. This is an information session that we put together to inform the community what we've been doing so far, our engagements, how we've been tackling the different issues that are arising in the United States, and engaging policymakers and the administration as well. And also, we're going to discuss strategies going forward on what's expected, how we can get involved with APAC. We have excellent speakers lined up, very active members of the community will speak, and also sharing experiences and strategies as well. And we're going to be welcoming feedback from folks on, how we can do better, how you can get involved, what are the things that are, pertinent in your state, what you consider to be missing, and how APAC can fill that gap as a political action committee. So there's going to be a very engaging event, and we appreciate Adebabay Media for streamlining that and making it accessible for the larger public and your followers. And I'm sure Mesfin will have a lot to add. I just would say, young folks, students in your student associations and universities, and so on, please get engaged, get informed. And your voices and your activities matter in shaping up a policy and making a difference in a larger picture as well. And so organize within your groups, Eritrean, Ethiopian student associations, and we're aware of quite a few of them that are very, very strong and active in the community. As you advocate for other underserved communities within the United States, I think it's also very much appropriate for you to advocate for your own country, for the Horn of Africa, for the continent as well at large. And this discussion is going to bring a lot of things to perspective and discuss APAC's mission, objectives, and what has been accomplished so far.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys coming out here and giving us so much detail and really having a discussion about voting and election and making sure that everyone that's watching us, what we're saying is for sure, go ahead and vote, especially if you live in Virginia and some other states like Colorado and other states that There's currently special elections going on. Election day is the last day of election technically is November 2nd, even though we call it election day. Elections have been going on for quite some time at this point. So please make sure that your votes is counted. And before we wrap up, I have a favorite question I like to ask all of my guests. And this is, what does being Ethiopian mean to you? And I'll just start with Mesfin.
Well, that's that means pride. That means feel full and that means really one historic. I mean, it's a powerful feeling to feel about being Ethiopian, and we should treasure it. We should pass the feeling to our kids. It shouldn't remain with us. I know Ethiopian Americans have a culture of taking the family to Ethiopia for vacations. I think we should do more than that. We hope to do some sort of internship programs as Apac gets more organized to get kids out for 2-3 months in summertime to get engaged. So I mean it means a lot to me.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll go to Yafsara next.
Sure, that's a very good question. Being Ethiopian for me as an Ethiopian woman, it means pride and responsibility in being the cradle of humanity and civilization. For me, I carry the strength of my ancestors and the bright and the hopefulness of my generation. And it means perseverance and going through the obstacles and challenges that our country and our people face, and coming out of it stronger, better, and wiser. And that is what Ethiopian means. Ethiopians never break. We go through challenges. We're like a gold that keeps getting polished and polished with all the beatings that happens to us throughout history. And we are better people for it.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And Elias?
A little unfair.
They took it all, didn't they?
So to me, what being an Ethiopian means, the feeling you get when you land at Addis airport, that particular unique feeling, the feeling that you're one with yourself, right? The wells of tradition, the amount of tradition that we have from several different ethnic groups, different background, diversity. The one thing that I enjoy in Addis when I'm in Addis is to go out and grab coffee and just observe the locals just passing by, from the shoe shine, from the guy who sells a book, every one of them, unique in their way, but Ethiopians as a whole. Despite which ethnic group they come from, despite what religion they have, they are all Ethiopians, having almost a similar ethics and a similar moral, right? Diversity, wells of history, like Ethiopian history is pretty much, to me, Bible is sort of new for me all the time. Ethiopian history is the same thing. It has a wealth of history. If you go back down to the beginning and to the current modern era, you can go back at it 100 times. It doesn't get old. There's a lot of different things to be learned out of it. Standing together when challenged, at times like this, the Adwa, the Italian invasion, all of these different points in history, those define Ethiopians. Ethiopians stand together with their king or with their leader at that moment and defend the nation, defend the folks, defend their home, defend their brothers, defend their sister, defend their religion, defend their culture down to the tooth. The wisdom that comes from being an Ethiopian, the different, ተረት እና ምሳሌ, the terets and all the traditional, wisdoms that are passed from generation down. To me, that defines Ethiopia.
Absolutely. I don't know what you said. They took it all. And that was really awesome. And as you were mentioning, really the day-to-day, there is this hashtag on social media that's called hashtag Everyday Ethiopia, where people share like the day-to-day living of Ethiopia and really reminisce, like at least for us that live abroad, a moment for us to reminisce and really appreciate and remember our home and just stay in touch with the day-to-day life of Ethiopia as well. So for those that are social media folks, there's that. Charge-free. Also, before we go, can one of you, I guess I'll go with Yasara. Could you give me, where do we find you? What are the Twitter accounts? How do we join, or how can we participate in APAC and anything else that we need to know to be part of this organization, support the organization, and also be able to follow you on social media as well?
Yes, of course. Please do go to our website, apac.org, register to be a member, and we reach out to you with pertinent information. Our newsletters will get to you when campaigning happens. You get to receive that as well. So please go on our website and register, and follow our Twitter account, APAC, as well as we have a new Instagram account coming up as well for the young folks. Please do follow us and share your ideas. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to keep you engaged and see where this takes us. Together we are the mightier. So please join us in this effort.
Absolutely. And for those that were asking, I've shared the Twitter account as well. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being here. Otherwise, your family, I don't need to tell you, that is to be true. I can't wait to see the program that you guys have prepared for us on Sunday. Like I said, we'll be streaming that here live on Adebabay Media as well on Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. To be sure, so go ahead and log in, and if you're interested, you can go ahead and sign up, and they'll send you the Zoom link as well to be able to be part of that conversation as well. And thank you again for being here, and if you haven't yet, please go ahead and subscribe and like and share this conversation as well. And that's all I have. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you for having me.